Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast where a group of guys share music with each other, one at a time. I'm your man with no plan. I'm Petey Rave. Here with me, of course, is the crew, the squad, the team. We've got Brett.
It's the power of wait, wrong album.
Yeah. We've got Drew.
Squad goals.
Yes, and we've got Patrick.
Now it's time for the news.
Yes. We are here to talk about music. We're here to talk about a particular band and album. The album is provided by Brett. Brett, what do you got for us this week?
Okay, we'll cut to the chase here. We're listening to Huey Lewis and the News album Sports. You know them, you love them, you've heard it a million times, but we're going to actually cut through the album, which it has been a long time since I've been to the B side of that cassette tape.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting album to talk about, an interesting nut to crack. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Hey everybody, have you heard the news? Most of you have. It's something.
No.
I like when I can make it, Brett. For all those audio listeners, Brett just went off screen because he couldn't.
It's pretty dumb.
I'm an idiot. But so it's something that I was familiar with. It's the band, fronted by Huey Lewis, has had 19 chart-topping singles. You're familiar with the band. A lot of the songs that you probably know, not all of them, mind you, but a lot of them are on this record. There is a B-side. It is small, I would say, comparatively, but it is there. So I was excited to get this one off the list.
Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
So after joking about this album for the past two or so years, we're finally here, and I can't say I'm not excited because, as Drew said, we've all heard our fair share of Huey Lewis if you've ever listened to popular radio or existed in the late 80s or early 90s. So this was one of those records where I'd probably heard half the songs before, but there were a few new ones for me, and I was looking forward to exploring it.
Yes. This album has finally found a home on our podcast. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is a very interesting album to talk about. Very timely album to talk about. Brett.
Yes.
Of its time. Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
Well, this is an album that has probably the most notable and noteworthy use of rock and roll saxophone that you will find in rock and roll music, and also is integral to some of the hits are very saxophone solo heavy. Also, you get some harmonica by the man himself. But there's something very, very polished and tight about this album. It's obviously put together by skilled musicians. We have heard these musicians before, some of them, in previous incarnations, and they're obviously skilled at what they do. But the thing about this album that always stands out for me is how it sounds like it would be fun to play these songs with all 1 million people who are playing all 1 million instruments. Like, to be that guy pounding on that synthesizer, it had to be a good time. But other than that, I mean, there's some really great guitar work. There's some guitar tone that's like, on a certain songs, I will be able to dial down a little bit more into the tone. But there is a lot of really minimalist guitar, like, let's just boodle deedle do in the middle between these two lines of lyrics. But the songwriting is probably what this album is really the foundation, the core of it. And I'm not much of a lyrics guy, but there are some really great turns of phrase if you will. And it's done in a very different, like the way that Huey Lewis vocalizes is unlike anyone else. You hear Mr. Lewis, you know you're listening to Mr. Lewis.
Yes. That is for sure. Drew, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements got your attention?
Well, the weird thing about this album to me is how at once it sounds super dated, and yet I feel like if it came on the radio at like, I actually mentioned this in one of my in one of the songs specifically, but if something came on the radio at an amusement park now, like that makes sense. That makes total sense. It is something that is approachable and really just fun and lighthearted. It's a popcorn sort of album in a way, but at the same time, this album is polished to a mere shine, in a way that's kind of crazy, in ways. It's something that's the composition of the actual music is like it's a formula just to be an earworm, just to be humming along, tapping your foot, whatever. There's bits of blues, bits of soul, but like it's a lot of pop, and like not like pop like that weird like manufactured in a boardroom pop. This is just pop music. It's just music that just pops up. It's fun. Like I said, 19 top 10 tracks in the Billboard Top 100. You know how to make a song that makes people happy if you've gotten that many. It's something that part of it is a lot of what this is, in my opinion. You also have musicianship that just goes beyond, like, yes, they're earworms, and yes, it's that sort of polish, and it's that sort of pop music, but like the sax alone is worth the price of entry in this album, in my opinion. Like there's some horn playing on this album that is absolutely fantastic, and sitting back with it, just I'm hard pressed to know anybody that could not have a smile on their face. The one thing I will say is that it feels a bit, in the lyrics wise, feels a bit schizophrenic sometimes, because I remember like today when I was listening to it at work, which I made the ARA I was working with listen to this morning, which was, I'm sorry. But there's a song where he's talking about like taking a woman home, right? And then like 3 songs later, there's a song like, yo, are you gonna like actually fall in love with me? And it's like, well, wait, hold, what? Like, and it's just sort of that like weird disconnect, but it's all in the aim of like, what's a good thing to write a song about? I think they do that well.
Yeah.
I might add, Rolling Stone gave this 2 out of 5 stars.
Really?
Yeah. And then later they gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I'll have to follow those footnotes, but
yeah.
3 out of 5 makes sense. 2 out of 5 seems weird.
That was before Weird Al came into the mix and made it a classic.
I mean, about Dan Aykroyd, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Marty McFly.
But yeah, that being said, Patrick, what would be your thoughts on this album?
God damn it, 80s pop music was good. This is very much, this is 1983, we have just gotten over disco. We're finally moving forward. And Huey Lewis and his friends, The News, dropped this fucking gem of a record. It sounds like 1983. There's a lot of very 1980s synths, but also like great use of horns. The guitar tone is, I can only describe it as that creamy, overdriven 80s guitar tone. It isn't quite full on Van Halen squealing, like crazy overdriven, but like it's creamy. it sounds like Huey Lewis in the News. I mean, I don't know how to to call it pop. I think misses the fact that like this was a band full of like killer musicians who could have backed up anyone, and some of them backed up Elvis Costello and his when they were in another band doing My Name Is True and his early tours. Like, this is a band full of killer musicians making really, really cleverly written pop music, and I think Huey Lewis is an underappreciated vocalist. Like, he had a very unique voice. It's got a little bit of like I feel like Huey Lewis could sing blues really. Huey Lewis. Yeah. Huey Lewis could.
Hold on.
Yes, he could sing some blues if he wanted to, but like he didn't. But he has like this. There's like this bluesy growl in there, but like also like really, really well controlled, well placed vocal melodies. This was. Oh, I mean, it has aged very gracefully, I think, in the way that albums don't always age.
In that it was always kind of corny, so it's the fact that it's corny is still a cool thing about it.
There's a little bit of cheese here, but like it's a very fine cheese.
Huey Lewis was never cool. He was just he was just good at what he did. And
like an aged cheddar.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's the sharpest of cheddars.
So I followed the link, and this is a great paragraph from Rolling Stone magazine. It's actually a rundown of several of Huey Lewis in the News' albums. Sports got the most stars at 3. The rest of them got 2. Hard at Play got 1.5. But I love this paragraph. It says, Huey Lewis found gargantuan mid-'80s success by masquerading as a rock and roller. Due to the News' bar band competence, the hits were letter-perfect versions of fundamental rock, but Lewis's remarkably unnuanced vocals and jockish sensibility were such that the songs missed the spirit by miles. After a desultory debut, the Bay Area sextet, originally named American Express, scored with Working for a Living and Hope You Love Me Like You Say You Do from Stuff. And then like the next page is on unavailable for viewing or something like that. Yes. I just love that paragraph.
By the way, let's also, like, you said that
let's just remember that Rolling Stone spoke favorably about many nu metal records.
Oh, well, I just like using them as the recorded review of the time. Yes. Yeah. It's always great.
But can I ask a question? The album was called Sports.
Well, yeah, because that's a segment in the news.
Yes.
was that the whole reason, like, behind it?
Yeah.
Because like I was hoping for one song about like baseball or some shit.
No, those are the worst songs. You never want a song about baseball unless it's Philly Fever,
or the softball song at the end of that episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. Wild Thing reminds me of baseball, but maybe that's just me.
That is
it reminds
you of a movie about.
That's just correlation,
and also you're from Cleveland.
Yeah,
the saddest baseball town of them all.
Yeah,
they're sad.
They came so close, yet so far away.
Says the man from Eastern Pennsylvania.
Hey, Philly won one just a couple of years ago. I understand they're a dumpster fire right now, but they did win a World Series a couple of years ago. When was the last Cleveland World Series win?
Next on Baseball Breakers.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
That being said,
I will talk to anybody about baseball at any time, but we need to talk about Huey Lewis.
Fuck Atlanta forever.
Let's talk about Huey Lewis. Let's talk about some key tracks. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on?
The Hard to Rock and Roll. I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's still beaten. There aren't any other songs that would have been perfect for the opening slot, and that one fills it perfectly. It flexes every muscle that the band has. The sax solo is probably the most famous rock and roll saxophone solo in modern history. And the organ and the harmonica is also really great. And also, like any song that runs down a list of city names, that's pretty cool.
Jump on
it. The next song, and my personal the song that brung this album for me, I Want a New Drug. What a catchy and crazy melody that was so good that allegedly Ray Parker Jr. lifted it, and Weird Al took it and parodied it to probably his second or third greatest work, in I Want a New Duck. But there's something about the lead guitar tone, in between, at the end of every line. It's pretty great. And it sounds like Huey Lewis in the News's "I Want a New Drug" tone. I don't know how to do that, but it's pretty great. There's one electric piano that's pounding out chords, and this very mechanical drum ticking that just it made a really, really good sonic foundation for the second most famous sax solo in rock and roll music history. And then I wanted to go to the B-side. I wanted to go to the final track, Honky Tonk Blues. Check this out. We got ourselves a Hank Williams song. Nothing says pop music like Hank Williams. It's fantastic. It has pedal steel. It has a bluesy piano parlor sounding. It's got twangy guitar licks. It's got contrasting non-twangy voice that goes with this twangy music. It is a man from San Francisco singing this Hank Williams song, and it's pretty great. The juxtaposition is pretty great. You can imagine, I would think that the song that they threw at the end of the album as a kicker had to be the song that they had the most fun just jamming out to and doing a round robin with the guys in the band. It sounded like a song that is way more fun to play than to listen to, and it's a pretty okay song to listen to. So I could go down just about every song on this album, but I will let the other guys do some talking now.
Yeah. Drew, let's talk about some of the key tracks. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Let's go down some hits. The heart of rock and roll, like Brett said, there are songs when they are perfect to lead into an album. They are perfect to lead into an album. The song is catchy. It starts off with, like he said, just the sax pops in that song more than anywhere in a lot of places and in a lot of bands that center themselves around some sax. That sax popped out of that song. It's a song that's pure fun. Everyone sort of knows the song, even in Cleveland. The theme from Ghostbusters. Oh no, I'm sorry. Wait, no wait. I Want a New Drug. The bass line in I Want a New Drug is just one of those iconic bass lines to me that it will always pop. It is so perfect and it is so iconic that it may have been stolen.
And if you can't think of what the bass line sounds like, just think of dun 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 dun, dun Ghostbusters. Yeah, that's pretty great. It's great enough that I can't even hear it in
Usually I'm not one for trying to litigate music and composition, but he may have had something.
There's a difference between plagiarism and just kind of sounds like it's not plagiarism. But sometimes it really is plagiarism.
so sometimes
I don't think this is a bittersweet symphony situation.
Yeah. God. That doesn't say anything bad about Ghostbusters. I just want to point that out. Or Ray Parker Jr., but
also
moving
a great
on.
Song.
Yes. But then if this is it, the song that I hear this song and for some reason in the back of my head there's those songs that do something to your brain, and for some reason I'm taken back to Cedar Point, nice sunny summer's day, just going on. It's one of those songs that is inoffensive but catchy, still fun. You still have fun like listening to it, tapping your toes, singing along. Like that's sort of that song to me. There are songs that can do that and that will forever be played on every like. We need a list of songs that will make old people not angry, but also like young people not angry. And it's got to be catchy. What are we going to put on there? I think if this is it, like fits that pretty well.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'll third on Hard Rock and Roll just being fucking great. That is. It sounds so good. It's everything about it is exactly the way good pop music should be. There's a good beat, there's good vocals, creamy guitars, good synths. I like synths, especially 80s ones. I don't know why they were terrible, but they were also awesome. I Want a New Drug, just because that's such an odd song. Like, who would have thought that guitar lick would be a massive hit? But it was. And it works. The horns are really good on it. The horns are really good on all this record. And then, I don't think anyone talked about this. Walking on a Thin Line. This had, like, all the bass synths at the opening. And the reverbed out 80s drum tone, which I love. Where, like, 80s drum kits, if they were recorded correctly, sounded like drum kits that were the size of a house. Like, all the drums were gigantic. And, I hate playing kits like that. I love hearing them because they sound fun, and I'm a sucker for it. It's got a really good vocal melody and a really good chorus. It's a good song. And if this is it, I love that song. I like stupid throwback songs. Like, I just feel it's fun. The vocals are really great. I think it really exemplifies why I think Huey Lewis is underappreciated as a vocalist. It's got great harmonies and backing vocals. And I was just having this thought, like, how many bands now, regardless of genre, have that many talented vocalists in the same group who can do those harmonies? Because it ain't a lot. Especially not bands where everybody plays instruments too.
How many bands have one quality vocalist?
I'm going to go out on a limb that many bands have a competent, if unremarkable, vocalist in them. At least one.
You don't have to be good at singing. You just got to do jump splits off the Marshall stacks.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yes.
But like this is. When people complain that pop music is dead, they're not right, but they're also not wrong. Like, they just want people who could fucking play and write, and this is when people could play and write music. Not that all 80s pop music was good, but there was some good ass shit in the 80s.
The people can still play and write music nowadays.
Some of them, a lot of them are garbage.
But they can't write "I Want a New Drug."
They can't.
That's already been done.
And I'm saying in pop music, most songs are written by committee now. That is the preferred method.
And there was a new drug. Crystal meth didn't go over well.
Nor did the crystal method.
We should bring out a crystal method.
Wow, I haven't thought about the crystal method in years.
Oh man. I might call an audible and just bring in a crystal method. Jesus.
Yeah. Also, a shout out to "Bad Is Bad," just being a song about sometimes things suck. Sometimes sometimes something isn't just so bad it's good. Sometimes it sucks, and it's okay to just say it sucks. Which I like that.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts.
We need an around the horn like saxophone solo.
Or it could just be what's his face from the ESPN show. Max. I wanted to say Max Kellerman, but I think he's the new one. I'm trying to remember who his stat boy was. But Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
It was a joke. Bringing up sports was a joke, and I think I had originally made the joke in reference to the Futurama joke, and we just kept running with it. And I think it holds up better than Futurama gave it credit for. It's an album that's fun. Will it change your life? Probably not. Will it make you happy about your life? Probably. It's alright. Like I said, it's popcorn, right? It's a popcorn album. It's something that is fun while it lasts, and you're gonna go back to it again eventually. That's about it.
Yeah. Also, I got it backwards. Max Kellerman was the original host of Around the Horn. It's actually Tony Reale, who's been the host since 2004.
I do have a whiteboard behind me. I can write dumb stuff.
You can write stuff. Go Woody Page on us. Let's move on. Patrick, what would be your conclusions on this album?
I think I'm a little higher on this album than Drew. I really, really enjoyed this. Like, I'm not going to pretend like it's some all-time wonderful, great work of art. But this is a really good album. It's got good songs on it. You can sing along. It's enjoyable. It's I'm not saying you hated it, but, it's good. I like it.
This fucking record made me happy to be alive, and apparently I shit all over this record.
You didn't shit on it. I just feel like you were lukewarm on it.
I thought he was digging around for a prop there for a second. He's just...
But I loved it. Go listen to it, seriously. Like, this is just good, clean fun.
I can't exactly just randomly call this like the Fast and the Furious of albums. Like
this is the Tokyo Drift of Huey Lewis records.
All right. Now
no.
we've heard.
No.
You car people know what I'm talking about.
No.
I would say Sports is more Fast Five.
Well, let's let
All right.
Huey Lewis in the news of sports is none of those things, Petey.
Now we've heard from Kevin Blackenstone and Bomani Jones. Let's bring it back to Woody Page.
Wait,
all right.
I in this situation?
I don't know. Wherever you want to be.
Well,
I'll be Israel Gutierrez because he's the one from Miami.
This album, Huey Lewis in the News of Sports, is a pretty great album. It's obvious. It obviously took it's sold like 7 gazillion copies, and I clicked the page, so I don't have actual facts. But everybody's mom had this cassette tape in their Dodge Dynasty. So like this is a an album that is going to be a part of people's lives, whether they want it to or not. You just turn any radio on or walk into any grocery store, and you're going to hear some of these songs. But it's easy to just be like, it's a shitty 80s album. It's overplayed and under delivers. But no, these are really great songs, and they're a lot poppier than what you would really think would take off in the 80s, but not poppy to the point where it's a synthed out crazy, it's a weird straddling album that I've always enjoyed, and it can really only be described as Huey Lewis in the News and Sports. It's okay time. If you have not heard this album, what the hell are you doing being this far into the podcast?
And if you think you haven't heard this album, you've probably heard half of it.
Yes.
Because they were pretty much all singles.
Yes. All right. So many singles.
I will say that I commend them.
Hot singles.
Because making an album, making a full album is hard. So then, you think about, bands now, they make a full album and then there's, 2 singles. Huey Lewis and the News were no, we got, 4 in this bitch. Let's roll.
So if you want to see Huey Lewis in the News, look at the schedule of your local casino to see if they're coming to town. Because my Google results have given me a bunch of, if you want to see them at this was from years ago. Oh, I'm bummed out. In 2013, I could have gone and seen him at the Crystal Grand Music Theater at the
Montgomery
Wisconsin Dells.
County, Ohio.
Yes.
They're coming to
Nice.
on July 21st.
So, you have a chance to see this magic for yourself.
So do it. Get out there.
I kind of want to go.
I imagine it must be a fun show.
Heights, I want to go.
You get to hang around with old white dudes and just dance around in
old
in
white
jeans.
women.
Okay.
Dance around which is hey. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it would be a cool time.
Hey,
it would be a unique time.
I've hung out with a bunch of old black people 3 times, seeing Earth, Wind, and Fire. I think I can hang out with some old white people too.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's cool. I'm going to see old white people. It makes no difference.
Yes.
One day you will be an old white people.
Yes.
If you aren't already.
Yeah, that's arguable.
I mean, I do really like Werther's and Boston.
Show me that birth certificate.
What am I, Barack?
I don't believe you're the youngest person in this room.
The Machne of this podcast. All right, let's bring it to the main event of the evening. Let's bring it back on topic and bring it to the main event of the evening, where we've shared all our thoughts. We bring it back to the haiku review. Sum it all up in poetic form, and then the winner goes to the showdown. No, not really. Let's talk about some. Let's get some haikus. Drew, what is your haiku?
Time to hang it up. The joke, fun while it lasted, but it was pretty great.
Yeah. Patrick, what is your haiku?
I knew this was good, just didn't know how damn good. So much here to love.
Yeah. My haiku, maybe of its time, but still a pretty fun ride. And now the weather. Brett, what is your haiku?
Heart of the 80s. A very solid album by one of the best. And I did not have another syllable to actually quantify the best at what, but still, you'll never know.
Best of. Just
yes. ...
You'll never know. Yes. That concludes our thoughts on Huey Lewis in the news. On sports, you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast.gmail.com. I missed a part. Where we talk about the next week's album.
I was
just sitting here just waiting.
Yeah.
I was worried. I was gonna be the one, and then I thought to myself,
I was like, and I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, we're showing jerseys, and then like, hey, I'm like, RoboCop.
Yeah.
Well, you just kept saying sports, so I just kept pointing to one jersey.
All right, next week we have an album that we're going to discuss on that Spotify playlist that I talked about before I introduced everybody. Presumably, actually, I know it is. It's going to be Drew's record. Drew, what do you got for us next week?
This is a band I found sort of serendipitously. Like, I can't even remember 100% like how I ended up finding this band, but I heard like 2 of their songs, ended up like really liking them, and found out that like their debut album had literally just come out, like their debut full-length album. So I was like, oh, I guess we're doing that then. That's how my life is going. Yeah. They're a band from Provo, Utah. It's The Strike with their album Faint of Heart.
Yeah. Spoiler alert,
Provo, Utah.
Spoiler alert, you'll all probably be hearing about them soon enough. But we'll discuss that next week. But that's next week, and this is this week. Not that weird.
It's lies.
But that would be next week, and this is this week. You can, of course, find it all over the internet. Find us all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is a Hibbid Ribbard. HIBBI2IBIBBRD. Drew is an extra for excitement. PD rated for Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. All over the place. Check us out. Subscribe, like, do the things. Calls to action. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
So good.
Yes.
Toodles.
And now we take a 167.5 hour break.
Yes.